Okay, everybody. So what we have today is the setup for our lab, which is tomorrow. So by the end of this video, you should have a question, a hypothesis, your independent and dependent variables identified, and you should have a procedure, both the setup and the test procedure filled in, and a summary of experiment. So in order to do that, you're going to need to look at this diagram of what the procedure is going to look at, the data tables that we're going to use to collect data, and you're going to need to read this objective at the top, which we'll start off with. So students will carry out an experiment to investigate how increasing the mass of a marble affects its average speed after a collision. So from that objective, we can pretty easily identify our variables, our independent variable and our dependent variable. So we remember that the independent variable is the thing that the scientist has control over, the thing that they're going to change as part of the experiment. And the dependent variable is the thing that is going to be measured as a result of those changes. So when we go back here, we can see that we've got increasing the mass of the marble is something that's going to happen, and that is going to affect the average speed of the marble after the collision. So one of these things we can control. One of these things is going to happen as a result. So let's identify them. The independent variable is the one we can change. The dependent variable is the one that we measure as a result. So go ahead and identify that based on what's there in that sentence. Okay? Okay. So hopefully you've identified the mass of the marble is the independent variable, put an I there, and the average speed of the marble is the dependent variable, so I'll write a D there. And so we should type those in right here, dependent variable, independent variable. We're not going to identify any constants or uncontrolled variables right now at this time. So basically, what is that going to look like? Well, if we look at this materials list, we can see that we're going to have some tracks, we're going to have some marbles, and we're going to have a digital scale. So we're going to obviously use that digital scale to measure the mass of the marbles, because that is what we're really testing. How does the mass of the marble affect the speed after the collision? All right. So once we've measured that and looked at these materials, we're going to also notice that we have a measuring tape and we have a stopwatch. And so we're going to be measuring distances with the measuring tape, and we're going to be measuring time with the stopwatch. But if we remember, we're not looking for distance or time, we're looking for speed. So we should remember that if we take the distance that an object traveled, the D, and we divide that by the time, then we can get the speed. Distance divided by time is equal to speed, or D divided by T is equal to S. So, as a way to measure the speed of an object, you are going to have to measure the distance and measure the time. Okay? So I want you guys now to look at this diagram of procedure and think about what you're going to be doing next. All right? We'll be back with the next video in a second.